Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A couple things. We have the Merrill Osmond Pioneer Pageant happening this weekend, and so we'd just like to know if the council members would like to attend. If you have any guests that you would like to take with you, they have some reserved seating that they would like to reserve for you as elected officials. If you are interested, would you please let Julie Brown know by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning the numbers, and she will work with you to make sure we have those tickets. The other item, council members, that I'd like to bring to your attention is we have got a situation that has really developed this afternoon for the most part. Our code enforcement officers were made aware of a complaint on June 8th regarding some murals at the Taqueria at 3200 West and 7800 South. And so as our code enforcement is expected to do, they responded to that. While they were there, they've spoken with the owner, property owner, about the ordinance requiring that no more than 15% of the facade be covered with murals. We want it to be very clear that the code enforcement has not determined this to be graffiti because the owners have given permission, and so they've been trying to work with the Taqueria to come into compliance with the code, and they've also informed the owner that they are more than welcome to work with the Planning Commission, the staff, and eventually it would come to the council for consideration for an ordinance change. It is a public process, and we're more than willing to cooperate with them if they would like to pursue that avenue. So again, our code enforcement is trying to work cooperatively with the owners. I understand that it's become a social media and a media issue. We recognize that the citizens have a right to express their feelings about it, but we hope that they will recognize that government has a process and steps, and that we're more than willing to cooperate and go through that, and would eventually come to the council for consideration of whether you would like to have changes to the ordinance to allow these type of things to expand beyond the 15%. And you know, I've seen some of the murals, and they're very interesting and very artistic. We just need to make sure that we're enforcing the ordinances the way they're adopted currently. So we hope that you're aware that we as a staff are doing our best to work cooperatively and help this process go through the legal process. That's all that I have tonight.
Thank you. Dorian, do you have anything?
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roca?
Nothing tonight.
Okay, Ryan, do you have anything?
Just to inform the council, it is that glorious time of year when the auditors will start showing up. They will be here next week for most of the week, beginning their preliminary work, and then they are scheduled to be here for most of the month of October to work on our audit. So we'll be hard at work with them trying to close the books and make sure everything's in order.
Thank you. Wendell, do you have anything?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. I've got two items. First of all, we wanted to let you know that we're pleased to announce that on Friday morning, 5600 West between 62 and 70th South is going to be opened.
Thank you.
Well, thank the staff and yourselves because that was able to be constructed early and at a less cost because we were able to close the roadway. But they have to get out there early in the morning in order to take the barrels out and remove all the traffic control. So they would do it Thursday night, but they don't want the traffic to be on there. So we appreciate your help and the staff as well. Kim Wells has put out a news release on that. So that's out in the public as well. Also, we wanted to let you know that we attended a meeting with UDOT about 10 days ago, and they indicated to us that on Bangerter Highway that they're going to be doing a number of those overpasses as a package, beginning design in 2017. So 5400 South, 90th South, 70th South, and 114th South are all going to be designed together. It's going to be a design-build project. They'll begin the design in 2017 and begin building in 2018.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Fire Department? Chief Donna?
Nothing from the police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice?
Thank you. I want to thank all those who participated in the Jordan River Commission's event on the 18th. I also want to state I need time to consider and research before I vote in council meetings. I reserve the right to vote no on any agenda items without staff reports or that don't give sufficient time to review the staff reports. I find it disrespectful to the council and to the public by extension to give insufficient information or time for review. Thank you.
I will now turn the seat over to the mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you. One item I want to, if the council is not in disagreement by a majority vote, I would ask that the time comes that we ask our staff to bring back an ordinance repealing the ordinance that was passed, I think it was late 2013, that moved the position of mayor to full-time. Take that back to what it was prior to that. I think equalizing those pays with the council so that the council as a whole, the pays equalized across the board. Thank you.
Mayor, point of clarification. So are you asking for action of the staff, Councilman?
I'm asking if there is not a majority of disagreement among this council to take that action. So I'm asking if the council disagrees with that action to speak up.
But
if you are in agreement,
agree to.
no, there's no motion here. If there is a sufficient majority of the council that would support the staff putting time into that research and bringing that for consideration at our next council meeting. So there's no action being taken, there's no motion being made, just asking that a resolution, as previously described, be brought back to the council at our next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Nichols.
I'll just make one comment. There's one item of business that I've been working with city staff on for an amount of time now, and that's that I'm finding discrepancies between the city staff, specifically the city manager, city council, and the mayor, and the three of us are our duties and responsibilities. I'm just finding discrepancies between state code and municipal code and council rules. So I've already talked to several of you just in that I was researching this and I wanted to bring it back in the future. But tonight what I wanted to do is formally see if the council is okay if we put the emphasis on staff to bring that back by next council meeting. If there's any objection to discuss that. Basically it's just to make sure that we're in line with state code.
Perfect.
Well, state code takes precedence over anything anyway. So.
Right. I'm just finding little discrepancies, and so I said, let's just research it.
Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. So again, are we being asked for an action, Councilman, or?
No.
Okay, thanks. Just want to make sure. So I just have two things. You know, it's been discussed with the arts folks. You know, we have some old bathrooms over by the rodeo stadium that are filled with filthy clothes and really a lot of, what can I say, probably infectious type of, because there's probably now mice and rats in them. And I would propose, and it would be up to the city manager and his staff, that you just look at surplusing of that property. I don't know what the chiefs have to say about it, but from my perspective, it's a fire hazard. I've been in it, and it's totally jammed with clothes. And besides the disease. So I just think, just as a note, because we need to start moving now the sets, the things that have value to the arts over to the what is still called the old library. And so that's just an ask to our staff to see if we can finally get rid of those eyesores over there. Go ahead.
Yes, Councilmember Haga, we've worked with our facilities people. They're getting ready to put in the storage cages that we talked about and to determine what the theater needs, and then I'll be submitting a letter to the theater groups to please organize their materials. We'll do the surplusing of unneeded property. We'll go through that process legally, and then anything that's salvageable to please get it stored in the correct place. So we are in motion of, bringing that in compliance, and I've spoken to the mayor about getting the storage facilities that we are currently renting emptied out so that we no longer have to pay the leases on those. So we're working in that direction. Thank you.
Then one other thing, I had a resident call me today. He lives at 7600 South, roughly. I just know where he lives. Sorry, 1100 West. We've actually had, actually the mayor, myself, and I think some of the staff from the police department out there looking at some code violations that we've had. We've had some issues with drainage, which, by the way, our engineering staff has done a fantastic job looking at that, and it looks like it's going to be resolved. Thank you, Wendell. But these folks are some of our elderly folks, and all they're asking me to ask from our staff is if maybe we can step up some patrols over there, because they're older folks. They get scared, so that's a word from one of my friends over there. I'd appreciate that, Chief. 76, it's the 78600 South, block of 1100 West, so it'd be east of 13th West. You know where we are now. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have two things. Number one, I talked to Wendell about a problem I'm having on my street with flooding of irrigation water. And within a day, I had someone there. They came today, and they found out that there was a blockage. They cleaned it out, but there has to be some, they have to do some boring because it isn't connected evidently to the main storm drain. I'm really happy that Wendell did not tell them I was a council person. They were unaware I was a council person. I did not want them to know that. I was asking for special favors. They did call their boss, and I think it's going to be taken care of, so I want to thank Wendell for that, and Justin for coming out, because they told me that their boss, Justin Stover, came out and looked at it, so I appreciate that. Thank you. The other thing is, it's item E on our consent item. My son is employed by Kilgore Companies, but he is not part of the asphalt overlay department, so I do not feel that this will be a conflict of interest. And that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one item tonight. You'll recall not long ago we set aside $125,000 to use towards design for an arts facility, and we applied for an additional $125,000 through a grant with the county. Conversation with them today, they indicated that they expect the final committee meeting to occur on August 7th. Originally they thought this would occur in July, but it's going to be August 7th. So the mid part of August, they should have the recommendations ready to take to the county mayor. Usually he presents his budget to the county council in mid-October, and then once approved, those funds would be available in January. So we're anticipating that we should hear back. Originally we thought we'd hear back August, September. It looks like it's going to be probably more September that we'll hear back on the status of the grant. Typically they'll reach out to us if there's additional information they need. They have clarifying questions. We've heard nothing back. I asked them about that, and they said that was a good thing. So it seems like we're moving in the direction that we want, and everything's looking positive for that grant request with the county for the design. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. I have two things tonight. The first one is Cafe Rio had their grand opening today. I wasn't able to make it. I had in Jordan Landing. You understand there was a large crowd there, and it was enjoyed by all. Next thing is, it's come to my attention that some residents believe that the city council holds secret votes in closed session. And I'm here to make a statement that we never hold votes in closed session. With that, I have a few citizens that have signed up to speak tonight. If you are here for the public hearing items, 7A, B, and C, now would not be the time to speak. You'll have time later to speak on that issue. We will first go with those who have signed up to speak. Michael Clara.
Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Michael Clara. I serve on the school board in Salt Lake City, so I'm way out of my depth, geographically speaking. So I received an invitation earlier today to attend a vigil tomorrow night here in your city that was in reference to what the city manager spoke about, removing the mural of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta from the restaurant over on 7800 South. My response, and then they kind of explained why they were told that the code enforcement told them they had to take it down immediately or start incurring fines. And I thought that was a bit of a, I said, well, I'm going to come to the city council meeting tonight. I looked it up. You guys had a meeting tonight, so here I am. And I just wanted to say I appreciate the words of what you said, that there's an opportunity still to look at that and to see how that fits in. And as a policymaker, I certainly understand and can appreciate the need to follow, the ordinances that are in place. I wanted to say also is that, I guess as a cautionary, there was in Salt Lake City, we've dealt with this over the years, but I believe it was in 1905, the city council in San Francisco passed an ordinance that said that you couldn't carry laundry on your shoulder, and if you held a stick on or put a stick on your shoulder and carried laundry, that was prohibited. And of course that was done, and it only affected one particular group, the Chinese population at that time. So that's what I would be concerned about, is that we're enforcing ordinances that would only single out a particular group of people. As I was walking in, I overheard some people talking and blaming this on the Mormons. But I want to say that as for me, I don't think it's something we can blame on the Mormons. I, for one, I'm I'm a confirmed, ordained, endowed Mormon, and I'm here advocating for keeping of the mural. And on a personal level, I want to say that it's important, I believe, for Hispanic youth, and being on the school board, why that is significant in this conversation is that I recognize the need for our youth, especially, and our Hispanic youth who feel marginalized for several reasons or many reasons, that we allow them to recognize that there are heroes in their community and that they deserve the respect that any other heroes that we would give for anybody else who has shaped this country and has shaped our thought process in this country, Cesar Chavez being one of them. And on a personal note, I want to say that my father's mother was a Hopi Indian, and her parents died of the smallpox epidemic during the turn of the last century. And after her parents died, the soldiers at the time quarantined all the Hopi children that had smallpox, and they were not allowed to go back into the Hopi nation. And as a result, my grandmother was raised by Mexican immigrant workers that came through Arizona at the time, and she was raised in southern Colorado. And she worked in the fields. And so this is on a personal level. I just want to say thank you for the time, and I hope that we can work this out as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. Jalen Thomas. Guess she's not here. Alexandra Ephraimo.
Mayor and Council, can we please pause a minute? Ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect upon our common goals before we begin the business of this meeting. We are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives us freedom to participate in our own governance, whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faiths. We seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in the pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected, and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we're about to undertake. Thank you. I'm still waiting. I'm waiting. A council person behaved very badly in April. I'm still waiting for a public apology from that council person to the mayor, to the council, to the people of West Jordan. If you look in the mirror and you like what you see, I don't know about that. But anyway, I don't know, this is the first time I heard anything about the code enforcement and the murals that we're talking about. But you know, I thought if a company or a person gets a code violation, you get the code and you have 3 weeks to comply. So I'm not sure what's going on. And I also don't know what's going on with the council person asking about the mayor and what happened before 2013. But I am doing a citizen's arrest. I'm trying to. June 24th, I went to a grocery place, and there was a stop sign there and a pedestrian sign, and a car was coming toward. My angel told me, do not cross. So I stood there and I thought, I'm going to wait and see what happens to this car. That person pulled west, never looked to the right, never looked to the left, and just was texting, looked straight ahead. And then I finally went around, and since June 24th, I'm really disappointed in about 5 different policemen. Every time, I'm going to talk about this again because my time is running out. And the policeman that I called and told the incident to, I found out that the car belonged to an Orem resident. But she said that the person that told me the name and phone number was wrong. And now I find out there's never a police violation on public property. That's what one officer told me. Then a sergeant told me today, that's wrong. If it's a traffic violation or DUI, they can. So to be continued. Thank you all.
Thank you. Jalen Thomas?
Jalen Thomas, 1348 West Spartan Hollow Drive. I want to address your business item 8F regarding your hostile work environment policy. Number one, why is this coming up? But I can imagine because of all the turnover rate in the city. But I do want to address, this is very personal to me because I have been a victim of sexual harassment, and with all the rumblings on Facebook's West Jordan Form of Government page regarding your closed door meeting of June 30th, and I'll give you a copy of that. If any of these alleged allegations are true that was stated on this Facebook page, then the city needs to do an independent investigation into these alleged allegations. There were comments by a couple of council members about what this meeting would be potentially about. But the one that really got me about this was a citizen comment that this person's a Boy Scout. Well, should the police and I, as a victim advocate, tell the victim the perpetrator was a Boy Scout and there will be no charges? No. Are people innocent until proven guilty? Yes. But to not address any claims of harassment shows that you approve of this type of behavior. An independent investigation outside of the city and not funded by the city for fairness to the alleged victim and alleged harasser. This should be no different than the police and fire incidents, etc. If the investigations are done internally, do you really think this would be unbiased? No. This protects all parties involved. If any alleged allegations of any type of harassment, they should be investigated outside of the city. If not, shame on you, all of you. The taxpayers in this city should not continue to pay for settlements because of your inaction and tolerance of harassment. You're all to blame. So I'm going to make a quote. Never, never be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person or animal is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. Martin Luther King. I don't know. Take care of it. Take care of all these people that are in this attachment, because this can't go on. West Jordan can't afford your mistakes. Can any of you guys sleep at night? I don't know. I probably doubt it.
Mayor?
Councilmember Southwest.
Just a quick comment. I appreciate Ms. Thomas bringing this up. She is absolutely correct. It is of the utmost seriousness. The City Council did make a statement, I believe prior to our previous meeting, that we take all allegations serious and that we investigate every one. And we immediately did so. Independent investigation, specifically to the one that you're talking about. Very, very thorough. Every member of this council, every staff member that was involved was contacted and investigated very thoroughly and found that there are zero basis for the allegations, and that there is no need for any further investigation. We appreciate the thoroughness of the investigation by a very competent individual, and that's probably enough comment for now. Thank you.
Final on this issue, Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. Just because I object to what was just said, because I've been privy to more things, and I think the investigation even delved into things that involve closed-door meetings, which were sworn by law not to divulge. However, they can be divulged by proper authority through subpoena and by a judge. The investigation that been referred to by another councilman here was done internally, and from my perspective, that this isn't my agenda item. I think we need to go to the state and have an independent. I'll wait to reserve my time to explain that further, but I object to the fact that we've settled this issue. It's not settled. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on any other issue than a public hearing item? Please come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. Would you state your name and address, please?
Hi, my name is Miguel Dominguez at 7322 South, 5490 West, West Jordan, way west. Thank you. We are here about the restaurant. We are the owners of the restaurant. We love to work with the city. We follow the rules. This was a very nice invitation to work with the city, but prior to that, it did not seem like there was going to be any work with the city. It seemed like what was said, and that was it. Erase everything, paint over it, and we're done. So I love what the city manager opened up for us, so we can start that process, and we would love to. The reason we didn't continue with the process was because we didn't have enough time or the resources to begin going to the Planning Commission, Planning and Zoning. We got all our information, and by the time it came by, we weren't extended again. So we couldn't afford the fine, the everyday fine that we would get. That's what primary reason we're here, just to get that extension and work with the city so we can make something that represents something that we do want to represent, but also follow the rules. And I would love to see if somebody would tell me who to name and say they sent me, and we're working on it so everybody can be happy. Thank you.
Well, City Manager.
And if I can just make an invitation, please continue to work with Brock Hudson, our code enforcement manager, and Darian is the manager over his department, and I'll make sure that Darian realizes that we've extended this willingness to cooperate as we always have. I know that Brock has communicated to you the process that you can go through, And so let's just keep communicating with each other so we can help you move through that.
We will,
And,
and we'll do it in a timely manner.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on? Seeing none, we will close the citizens' comment portion and move to the consent calendar. No one has stated. Now, somebody has. Councilmember Hagan.
I'd like to pull the minute,
6A.
81.
Consent. Okay, 6A. Councilmember Southworth.
I move to approve the remaining items.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion. See none, let's vote.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Public hearing item 7A. Receive public input and consider for approval the West Jordan Police Department's application for an Edwin Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant for 2015 in the amount of $29,487. Chief Diamond.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is an annual grant that comes up. We've applied for it every year. The $29,000 plus that we are applying for this year would go toward radios to offset some of the money that we are going to need to spend on radios and updating that radio system. So unless there are any questions, I'll leave it to the council.
Questions from council? Don't see any. We will now open the public hearing portion of item 7A. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on item 7A, now would be the time. Seeing no one, motion would be in order. Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you, Mayor. With an expression of gratitude and thanks for the work that our police department does, I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Rice. Discussion? Let's vote.
Oh,
Oh,
no, my screen just shut off quickly, that's all.
sorry.
No, it's okay. Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Item 7B, receive public input and consider for approval Resolution 15-146, amending the fiscal year 2015-2016 salary schedule. Bryce.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. You have the salary schedule before you. I know we've answered some questions during the last week since you've had it. Are there any further questions that you need to ask?
Questions from council? Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you. I wonder if it would be appropriate if we table this till our next council meeting, considering the request that was made at the very beginning of this meeting regarding the position of the mayor. So it might be more appropriate, unless we want to do this twice, I think it's probably appropriate that we table this till the next meeting. And actually would make a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
Councilmember O'Connor. And then, I'm sorry.
Well, I'll wait to see if there's a second to the motion.
Councilmember Hagan.
Can I
We have to have sorry, I think I might have
Can you
jumped
make a
the gun.
motion to continue the public hearing?
Yes.
Rather than table?
Continue the public hearing until the next meeting.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Please.
Thank you, Mayor. My reason for seconding was a little bit different. There's a couple items in here that I have a little bit of concern with. primarily two changes to positions that are going from part-time to full-time. These were changes, there's one in HR and one in engineering. These were changes that were not discussed in the council meeting. There was an email that was sent on June 5th that said, here's some reclassifications. Well, the email suggested these were, quote, reclassified to higher salary ranges due to recent changes in duties and responsibilities, end quote. Nothing in the email suggested changing from part-time to full-time. Like I said, this wasn't an email, so I was unable to open the attachment. When I did open the attachment, I saw that we were changing our head count, and I thought it would be more appropriate to make sure that that was properly noticed to the public. It was included in a formal vote on the agenda, not just buried within the budget or overlooked within the salary schedule. So I wanted to bring up that concern and ask that that be addressed more openly and more transparently. I don't think staff necessarily did anything wrong. I just want to make sure that there's the highest level of transparency possible. So I would be in favor of the continuation so that those and other changes that may have not been formally discussed could be more clearly communicated to the public.
Councilmember Hagan.
I will support the motion too, but I'm hoping that I can ask a few questions, mainly some of the brackets that are in here, and if I can impose on the chief. We have police sergeants, so 3, 2, and 1. First question would be, would you define GRP acronym? What does that mean? You have a GRP 66, 68, 65, 59.
Excuse me, that's just the designation of the classification. I don't know that GRP stands for anything. It's just a number that we put on it to differentiate it from other categories and other classifications. For example, there are fire department classifications that are on a different pay structure, so we've just put those initials in there to do it. To be honest, I don't know that they mean anything specific other than to differentiate the different classifications.
And it's probably a computer code or something. That is what basically what you're saying. And the other question I have, and that's not a big deal since we're tabling this, but why are we bracketing? We have 88 officers, but from last schedule we approved in January, we classified, we had 42 officer 1s, 27 officer 2s, and 19 officer 3s. Now it all adds up. It's just I'm wondering, will you be able to come back to us next time and put those in order as far as the FTEs they belong to?
As far as the people?
If you look at what you're asking us to approve, it just says 88 officers, 1, 2, and 3.
Right. With the career ladder, those numbers within the individual career ladders, so the officer 1, officer 2, officer 3, will fluctuate from year to year, but the overall number will be the same. It just depends on who qualifies to move to an officer 2 or who qualifies to move to an officer 3, retirements, new hires. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking.
If we're going to table it, I'm willing to maybe meet with you.
I'd be more than willing to sit down and explain it.
All right. But it's
Okay.
probably just math.
Yeah, okay.
I just had one issue, and I hope maybe Bryce was going to bring this up, but we're in very bad need of a building inspector. It's been budgeted in the salary schedule. And does anyone on the council have any issue with posting that job and looking for that without ratification of this salary schedule? Except we're okay to go with it.
I could give a little explanation too. Because of the increase of demand on our building inspection part right now, we had scaled back during the recession. We are having a demand beyond what we can take care of. As the mayor indicated, we were ready to come back to you and make a formal request in a council meeting for an additional building inspector. Because of the savings that have come about with some of the changes in our development department, there's plenty of money in the budget to pay for this additional position. So the mayor this morning indicated that he would be supportive if the rest of the council said, please move ahead with the posting of the position, and I appreciate that, but I just want to make sure, much like Councilmember McConaughey mentioned a moment ago, that we're not doing anything that the council and the public are not well aware of. So I will defer to you and do whatever you would direct. But if the council said, we realize you need this additional person, and if it's within the budget and within the proposed salary schedule, and you allowed us to move forward with posting it, that would certainly be very helpful to our staff. So whatever you want to do.
We're good to go. Let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Roll?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
Item 7C, receive public input prior to considering ordinance 15-19, amending the 2009 West Jordan Municipal Code, amending section 13-5-5, clarification of zoning, and 13-5-6, zoning conditions citywide applicability. City of West Jordan. David Oka.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through a few changes over the years, we've found some inconsistencies in the zoning map and the code. This is primarily a housekeeping issue to bring those both in to be consistent. And for any questions, Mr. Thorpe is here to answer those. Thank you.
Questions? We'll now open the public hearing portion of item 7C. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? Now would be the time. I will close the public hearing portion of this item and return to the council. Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion of the motion? Let's vote.
Mayor Roll?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you. I have a life event I must leave in about 20 minutes for, and so I will be leaving this meeting a little bit earlier, and I want to request of the council, if at all possible, if we could move item C to the front of our business agenda.
Business item C.
Yes, if that's okay.
Anyone have any opposition to moving that?
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Business item 8C, discussion regarding proposed agreement with interim city manager, assistant manager, Bryce Hatterley.
Thank you very much. The reason for this purpose is only for discussion only tonight. I'm not asking for any decision. I've been serving in this position for 11 months, and I made it very public and open that I was willing to accept that responsibility without any pay increase. Typically, at the very minimum, anytime we have an employee work out of class, meaning take on responsibilities of a higher class and meet all their minimum requirements, which I do, they are paid at least 5%. I refuse that and continue to work for the same salary as the assistant city manager. What I'm asking for is whether or not the council would be willing to discuss with me tonight some terms for an agreement is what I classified it based on the discussion tonight. It still needs to have attorney review, and so if they determine that it needs to be called a contract, fine. I'm not asking for anything different than any other employee within the city, except for some of the situations that are typical with these type of positions. One would be for a 6-month guaranteed severance if it is a termination without cause. If there's some reason that there is cause, then I don't believe an employee should be able to have any type of a severance package. And so I want to make it very clear that if something were done illegally or inappropriately, that there would be no severance. Number two, I'm asking for an increase in the salary beyond what I've been getting paid as the assistant city manager. And then everything else is pretty much the same as what we have for all other city employees who are in the exempt classification. So I'm just asking for input at this point in time from you.
Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Council, for bringing this one up. What an odd and awkward situation I can imagine if anybody here in the audience had to go in front of the public to talk to their employer about their pay. But only in government does this sort of thing happen, and I commend you for having the fortitude to stand up and do this. With that said, I also want to say that I would be in favor of entertaining that, a proposal be brought forward. I think under the circumstances and the leadership you've shown and the work that you've been doing, we've gone through this past year. We've had these type of discussions openly with our police department, our fire department, with our general employees. We've had that with elected officials, similar discussions about this. And I don't think this is something that's out of the ordinary. And personally, would be agreeable to entertaining that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hickok.
Again, I applaud you too for coming in front of us. It takes courage, so, to ask for that much money, I'm not going to put it down. The thing that I think as elected officials that we need to point out, though, is we are in a situation where we are an interim city manager, which means that we don't have a contract as city manager at this point. And, Mr. Hartley came into this position because he is our assistant manager. And I think unanimously we actually voted him in, as interim manager. At this time, though, what we're doing is we're out seeking this is the first time I think we've even said it publicly, seeking as a full-time city manager. And with that comes costs. We'll have to budget in a salary for a new city manager. And I'm not prepared until we get to that point as far as selecting somebody that we believe we went out and found the very best person to run the fourth largest city, that we should be spending any more money. And so I'm opposed to the pay raise. I appreciate you coming to us and asking. As far as putting it on the agenda, we're a council body. That's a privilege of any of the council members, and if that happens, so be it. But I'd be opposed. So, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Rush.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very much in favor of paying people for the jobs they do, so I'm in favor of this.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I very much appreciate what's been done. I very much appreciate you stepping up to the plate. I do have a little bit of concern breaking precedent, because my understanding is in the past we haven't done something like this. I'd be open for further conversation, but at this point, I don't think I'm at a place where I could support some of these items that have been suggested in a contract type form.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. My statement would just be that I'm in support of bringing this up for discussion formally in a council discussion in the next meeting. I'm willing to entertain it.
So, Mayor, can I address the council?
Please.
So my purpose for this tonight is if there were certain terms that anyone was uncomfortable with or would say, that's a deal breaker, please remove those sections, things like that, then that helps me to know, and we don't have to go through the wrestling of, debate or anything like that. You have been great to work for, and I appreciate this opportunity. I'm very honored with this privilege to serve in this capacity right now. And so I definitely want to try to reach an amicable solution that, again, provides some protection for my career. Councilmember Haig, I definitely appreciate what you mentioned, and I failed to point this out. The purpose of this is to memorialize, if the council's willing to, that if I'm serving as the interim city manager, or if you choose someone else to be the city manager, revert back to the assistant city manager, some conditions that I would know going into it, what you as a council and what I've agreed to. And so that's the whole reason for this. And part of this has come about as we've been working with our contract legal staff of saying these kind of positions, rather than getting into a situation where there's debate going on after or during a severance agreement or something like that, memorialize it ahead of time, and you save everyone the confusion of where you're going to go with it. And so that's what precipitated some of this discussion. So again, if there's certain things that you're saying I'm very strongly opposed to, we can either talk about it now, or I would definitely accept a conversation with you on the side during the next week prior to the meeting. Because I'm not asking for any vote tonight, I need to turn it in to Melanie next week. If you want to give me some input, I would definitely like to modify this and then hopefully be able to bring it back with a possibility of action. And I realize that could be a no vote, but is there anything else you want to help me going forward? We're good? Okay, thank you very much.
No, I have a statement. I believe that we're a little late in the game. I believe the posting from the recruiter closed today. I know we had many applications actually, and so we're really close, I believe, to interviewing and making a selection. Just think moving ahead at this point in time now, this late date, would be a mistake. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
If that item is over, then I'll just take the opportunity to thank everybody for the time tonight and excuse myself.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will go back to consent item 6A now. Councilmember Haga pulled this item.
Thanks, Mayor. We take minutes of all our proceedings, and our staff does a fantastic job of transcribing these. And I bring this up just because I still believe that we have a problem with the hostile work environment in our city and even up on this dais. And you know, the councilman that made this statement sort of left the building, but I'm going to read the minutes, and then I'll vote for them. But I want the public to really understand what happened that I thought was wrong.
Quick question, if I may ask, which date and which section of the minutes are you reading?
It would be in remarks under the city council comments and reports.
What date?
On what date?
In your packet today. It would be
Their meeting minutes from the
24th.
From the 8th.
the
24th meeting.
24th, page 3.
You clear on that, Chris?
Yes,
So it'll
thank
be
you.
Wednesday, the June 24th, our regular council meeting. Councilman Southers, we have an individual that serves the council in our administrative staff that is supposed to be helping us, meaning the council, from my opinion, I guess, with research of what we have to do. Understanding that our city manager is trying to do the job of multiple people and he was mentioning this to me. And I suggested that we take this individual and have this person report directly to him. Be his personal assistant. The reason I bring this up is because that individual is supposed to serve the council as a whole, and I don't think that that is necessary. We thought that we thought that might be helpful. I don't know how that works. I don't think we got to use out of that as we had anticipated. So I would suggest that the council, and I was just giving my consent, it is the city manager's decision, supposedly. It would interfere with anything else that he would really be doing. But that the individual happens to report duly to him and to us, and so I would give my consent to recognize and reclassify that position and just throw that to the council and anybody else that is in disagreement. To bring this to relief to our city manager to help us move the process along and move the flow of information to help get the businesses done in the city we really have that helps this very need at this time. So I throw that out. If there's anybody, and this is speaking to us as the council, that in disagreement, speak up. But I think there's something that we need to do to help the city. Mayor Rolfe stated, so you're saying reclassify this job? Councilman Southworth responded, probably recognizing that remove that from having any direct report to the city council itself, and just like any other employee that position would report and work strictly for the city manager, and the council can request as any assistant as they would through any other employee throughout the city. And again, Mayor Rolfe responded, that would be reclassification. I won't go on to read the rest of it other than I want people to take note that this was an action that was made without the council authority. I never voted. I didn't even understand that we were in a disagreement or we were even talking about reclassification. If you listen to our remarks earlier, some council members say, do we disagree? In reality, when we're up here, we're supposed to make action by motion and by vote in public. Disagreeing or agreeing with somebody, one individual, is not council action. So my point to this is, this was an act, from my perspective, of a city council changing the position of actually the city council executive assistant. And I object to it. I think it should still be part of the investigation that's supposedly over, but nobody's checked into this, nor are they checked into the email that resulted from this action. So, thank you, Mayor. Now I move to approve the minutes 6A.
I will second the motion. Motion made by Councilmember Haga, seconded by Mayor Rolfe of item 6A. Discussion to the motion. I just have one statement about the motion, though I'm in favor of voting for approval of these minutes. I still believe that it would take a council action to change the terms of the position. And that would be reclassification. So let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Item 8A, business item, discussion and possible action regarding West Jordan noise mitigation. Julie?
Mayor and Council, you asked us to come back with some ideas of what we could do to mitigate some of the noise from events that we have over the West Jordan Arena, specifically events on Sundays that have been an issue. Here's some of the ideas. It's just an a la carte list if you want to go down and discuss them or pick some that you want us to start working on. We do have reservations that are interested in the fall for different days in the arena that would like to get booked.
Questions for Julie? Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Julie, have you had any feedback at all from neighbors on any of these preferences, what they might indicate that they'd like? I mean, obviously they don't want an event outside of no event at all, anything that they prefer?
We just brought this to you. We haven't issued anything publicly to the neighborhoods. Right. And really it depends on which direction the sound is pointed on, which neighborhood you would affect.
Okay.
Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. So, Julie, I read through this, and our attempt, if I can answer this question properly, is to equally, for anybody that rents our rodeo stadium, that they have the same guidance on sound, and basically every kind of policy that we have with that particular facility.
Any items you choose, we would be working with the legal department, putting those into the facility use policy for the arena. So whether it was one of our events or somebody else's event, they would all apply.
Is it the opinion of you experts that this will solve the issue that we've had, or not solve, at least mitigate the issue that all of us received many complaints on?
The only way to solve the problem is to put a roof over it and to enclose it. I mean, that's the absolute solution to the entire problem. You're always going to have noise going into the neighborhoods, even at the limits that the health department has set, you're still going to hear it.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Some of these options are more attractive to me than others. Are you looking for just kind of a list of?
If you want to tell me which ones you want me to research further on cost, or some that you want to definitely implement, and we can move forward and bring it back for a formal vote, that would be terrific.
Okay, the ones that stuck out to me the most were numbers 9 and 11. I'm not sure I understand the differences between the two, between hiring a sound auditor and getting a sound audit, but both of those seem attractive to me. Number 17, limiting the hours of the day. You've got 1 to 10 p.m. on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 3 to 8 p.m. on Sundays. I would still have some question about Thursdays because that's still either a school night for kids or a work night for others, but I would be interested in looking at that.
Do you have suggestions on different times?
No. I'd be open to staff recommendations. I mean, I've got my own thoughts where I think Thursdays might be something that we want to keep the same, or maybe we say during summer hours we allow a little bit later, but then you still have issues with people going to work the next day, and I don't know. I'd be open to suggestion there. The other one that stuck out to me was number 6, but that kind of ties into number 9 and 11, acoustical site planning, requiring them to adhere to a layout. I think we should probably have somebody tell us what layout's going to be most efficient. Last time we heard someone say that depending on how you point the speakers, you could actually amplify the sound going one direction or deaden it going a different. So I think we should have the professional tell us what to do before we do that, but I would like to give them a plan to adhere to. And then number 2, I think we should start doing that immediately. Decibel rating by staff should not be higher than 80 at any given time inside the venue, and then we could always come back after we hear from the experts, and if that can be adjusted inside the venue and still not have a negative impact on the neighborhood. So those are the ones that I would start with. Number 11 and number 9, and then I'd be open for discussion on number 17, and then number 6 and number 2. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. It's number 2 that I'm most interested in. It may be, the decibel reading may be 80 at the arena, but I would say 60 at the property line, because we said 80 at the property line and it was much higher than that. So if we're going to say 60, it may be 80 at the property line, but I would just rather see it be lower at the property line for these neighbors.
And even at 60 at the property line, they're still going to hear it.
That's true, but I think it would be a little more convenient for them.
Agreed.
Follow-up, Councilmember McConaughey.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. One other idea just occurred to me that's not listed with these suggestions, but the possibility for a variance for a specific reason or a specific event. For example, if we decide on Thursdays that we don't want anything going past 8 p.m., well, what happens when the 4th of July falls on a Thursday? We want to make sure that there's some sort of recourse, or if there's something else, we want to make sure that we still have the ability to give people a method to appeal.
And by putting that in the policy, we can do that.
Councilmember Rice.
Thank you, Mayor. The numbers that I specifically, that pop out to me as ones that I'd like to look into are 1, 2, 9, 10, 15, 16, and 17. So 1, 2, 9, 10, 15, 16, and 17. Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up, Councilmember Hanson? Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry. No, thank you.
Other discussion on this item? So would you like to just take those comments and bring them back and we'll do formal action there?
It'll probably be within 2 meetings that we'll get back.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Business item 8B, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 15-17, amending Title I, Chapter 14, Article C, dealing with responding to a notice of violation issued by the city's code enforcement office and amending Title V, Chapter 3, defining a public nuisance. Darian.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Robert Thorpe from the City Attorney's Office is here to present this item.
Bob.
Thank you, Mayor. You'll recall that this was before you at the last meeting, and I've listed in the middle the changes that we made in response to the points raised by the council. The 2 big thrusts of this proposal are, number 1, we have found, and I think many on the council have said to us in times past, that there are some types of code violations that need to be remedied now rather than in 14 days. So the one thrust of this proposal is to say that the city manager can, by administrative directive, designate the types of violations that can have a shorter response time. The second big thrust is essentially a deal that we're making with the large landowners. Large landowners have come to us and said it is extremely costly for us to mow the weeds. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on some of these large properties. So working with the fire department, we've come up with a proposal that if any property of 5 acres or over will maintain a defensive strip on the outside of their property all the way around, and we've decided that should be a 50-foot defensive strip defined as mowed to the ground and weed control applied, that they don't have to mow the inside. But in return for that, we're saying if there is a weed violation, we want the fines to start rolling very, very rapidly. Because what we have found is that these large landowners are very savvy. They know it's dollars in and dollars out, and as long as the fines are less than the cost to get a person out there to mow, they'll incur the fines. So I think it's a carrot and a stick. You can do the defensive strip and save a lot of money, but if you don't do that, we need to have an acceleration of the fines so that it gets their attention and suddenly it's more cost effective to comply with our ordinance than not to do so. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Bob? Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate your thorough description. My question would be with respect to, I just want to make sure I have it clear in my mind. Take the new development at Smith out there on 78 South. You've got a lot of vacant land around it. To what extent would the landowners immediately surrounding it be required to mow their weeds? I mean, basically what I'm thinking is a new subdivision comes in, not just Smith's, but a new subdivision comes in, it's got vacant land next door. Is that because there's development next door, will they take care of it, or are they going to be exempt just because they have 5 acres of land?
Well, the 5 acres of land is simply saying you can create the defensive strip. Now that's 50 feet all the way around. And the main issue we're finding is that it's a fire issue that we're trying to stop. Now, if they are noxious weeds, in other words, the state of Utah has in its statutes a list of weeds that they define as noxious. We don't allow noxious weeds. So if there's an identification of noxious weeds, those have to be gotten rid of regardless. Tumbleweeds are an express nuisance. So if tumbleweeds are moving from one property to another, that's going to be a nuisance and a code violation regardless of the size of property. But in answer to your question, we do not have any disparate treatment of how close you are to a subdivision or how close you are to a commercial property.
Yeah, thank you. Your explanation, I was actually going on the way of tumbleweeds, so appreciate your description. Thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Oh, sorry, Mayor, my question's been answered. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Robert. I asked this question when this first came to us, and I understand this is important. I mean, for safety, public safety. One of my problems I read in this, and maybe you can interpret it for me, it says any person, whether as an owner, agent, or occupant, who creates, aids in creating, tolerates, or contributes to the nuisance. And I'm wondering, what does tolerates mean when you're in this situation? In other words, am I tolerating my neighbor to have long weeds? Or
Certainly, if you're not the cause of the nuisance, you're not going to be charged. You're talking about language that is a carryover from the nuisance laws that we've had for 40 years. And just as Councilman McConaughey pointed out, that we've had a carryover of an attempt to enforce beyond our boundaries. That's simply a carryover of somebody's description to allow enough flexibility so that if we find somebody that really is in charge but may hide behind some corporation or something or other, that was just a lot of leeway to give code enforcement to get at the nuisance.
So it would be like maybe a renter of a particular property that's should be taken care of. They're tolerating it, but they're saying it's really the owner of the property. So the person that's renting that property would be the person tolerating the nuisance?
We would have to examine the facts in that situation. If the renter had been delegated the authority to maintain the property, then yes. Okay. If the owner had still retained the responsibility to maintain the property, then no.
I just had one comment. I like the way it's written with the protection strip of 50 feet, but that means mowed right to the ground, and that means specifically right to the ground. I believe in these large tracts of land, leaving the vegetation on controls erosion and many other things, but in the event of a fire, that 50-foot protection strip gives enough of a buffer so that it doesn't impact somebody adjacent to the property, so I applaud that section. Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. What is the length of time that a person is given once they receive a notice of violation to remedy the problem?
Are we talking about weeds?
No, I'm talking about
generally
animals.
Oh, animals. Well, if you go to the administrative directive draft, which is attached to the back of the staff report, you will see that animals at large, nuisance animals, cruelty to animals is an immediate abatement, whereas weeds and some of these other things are given 48 hours.
The reason I ask is due to the fact that I had a neighbor on an acre of ground with 150 chickens and 20 turkeys. And it took almost a month after her notice of violation before she had to do anything.
Well, if somebody wants to ignore a notice of violation, there's, until the fines start accruing, there's going to be some time passed. But what this does is it shortens 14 days to today for animal issues.
Thank you.
Council. Councilmember Nichols.
Just a comment in your motion, and that was that the last meeting I publicly said I would not support this based on the fact of the tumbleweeds. With Bob's clarification, I feel much more confident and that we're not actually really addressing that. That's a whole separate issue. And with that, I move that we pass ordinance 15-17.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and actually 2 seconds. We'll give it to Councilmember Rice. Discussion of the motion. Let's vote.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Robb?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Item 8D, discussion and possible action regarding form of government legislation. Councilmember Haga.
Let me just pass these out. You don't need to read them or anything right now. I'm just going to explain. Excuse me. I'm just going to explain what I'd like to see happen tonight. With a lot of the issues we've had in our city, our form of government, from my perspective, is dysfunctional, to say the least. And I've been approached by some legislators about, all right, well, why don't you just put the question to the voters and change the form of government? And unfortunately, it's always been a 3-4 vote. And I haven't been able to move anything, or anyone else on here on the council. Even if it went to the vote of the people, it wouldn't take effect until 2018. So none of us here that sit here, well, maybe unless they're reelected, it will in effect in 2018. But the legislation that's being proposed, what's going on?
I guess I'm on the food stand. Sorry, Jeff.
That's okay. What's being proposed is line item change on our form of government, and to make it to where we're what they consider a first-class city. Now, even though that sounds maybe elitist, what that means is because we are over 100,000 people, we are considered a certain class of city. There's first class, second, third, and fourth class. There's many other cities that run under our form of government, which is manager, council form of government. What is being proposed for the legislation in January is that a first-class city like ours that is selected to have a full-time mayor can then designate that mayor as the CEO of the city. And basically it would change the structure of the manager being the CEO to the manager becoming the COO. So for the council benefit, this is in real draft form. It shows the 1977 law, which that's the law that we live by, and then the 2008 amendment line that we're proposing. So, can't hear me, I'm sorry. So if anybody wants a copy, this is just draft at this point. Until we get it numbered up on the hill, will we move forward. But I really don't need any action. I really wanted to ask, and I'm wondering if we might, I might have to wait till the mayor comes back.
or I'll have to pull these two items. Is he coming back? Can I move we take a short break?
We have to. Councilman Haga's moved for a short break. Would anyone else care to take one?
Then I'll continue. That's all right.
Okay. I will now turn the chair over to the mayor.
No, you ain't gonna get my
No.
Question.
That's all right.
Did you have the floor, Stu?
So I wanted to move just to, I just explained, D, about the legislation being proposed up in January, and giving everyone a copy. What I'd like to do is ask the council one last time, with or without the resolution, that we move to put on the general election the question, shall West Jordan adopt mayor, council form of government?
So are we on E?
No, on D.
No, I'm D now.
So this is,
No, you're on-
Melanie did get my packet, I'm sorry.
What?
I'm not blaming you.
No, my email isn't updated.
So my packet didn't get in, so I apologize to you.
I apologize too, but I don't want to seem like we're learning from the press, so I stepped out for a moment. So just bring me up to speed about where we're at.
What I'd like to do is just make a motion. We've already discussed it time and time again, and that is to put on the general election ballot of 2015 the question authorized by the state, shall West Jordan adopt mayor, council form of government?
That's a motion?
That's the motion.
I'll second that for discussion. A motion by Councilmember Haga and a second by Mayor Rolfe. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll reiterate my comments from last time we discussed this, which is that I would be in favor of proceeding to research the issue, share information with residents, provide an open house so they can engage with staff to see what level of support there would be from residents for putting this on the ballot. Personally, I've only been addressed by about a half dozen people. I've had far more people contact me about other issues than this one. So before going to the all the steps that would be involved in putting that on the ballot and everything else that would entail, I would prefer to start by providing information to see what's out there, what sort of interest is out there. That said, it's rather late in the game to be doing it for this coming ballot, but I would not be opposed to starting the process for the subsequent.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. I am in accordance with Councilmember McConaughey. I feel like the public does need to be educated on the different forms of government, the one we currently have and the one we're talking about getting, because I don't know that the public really realizes the difference, the pros and cons of each kind, and there are pros and cons of each form. If we go to the other form, we cannot go back because it is no longer allowed by the state. So it's not that I'm against going to that form of government, but I do believe that the citizens should be well educated on what they're voting for before it goes on the ballot. Thank you.
Councilmember Haga.
With respect, Councilman, first of all, it's the voter that's making the decision, and let me just give you a little. I thought we had talked about this in the past, but there's a set procedure, especially if the council decides on how our residents are educated. First of all, and maybe our clerk can help me understand that, there'll be 2 public hearings that we'll have here on the subject. So hopefully maybe we can get enough people that care about the decision to be made to come and speak on it. So, but it's the residents that are going to decide. The other thing, and our honorable clerk, if she'd tell me, we will have a packet sent to the mail explaining the form of government.
Correct, there would be a voter information panel.
So the education process has been set up by the legislature for this to happen. It's just a matter of we need to allow them to vote and make the decision. And whether, again, none of us on this dais will benefit at all with this change. If the residents choose to change the form of government this year, next year, the year after, it doesn't take effect until 2018. I'll be out of office, and I don't know, mayor might run again, I don't know, but let's let them decide. And the education, I'll be the first one to say, let's have open houses, let's have debates, let's do what we can to educate the residents we can, but we can't do it until we give them the choice. So again, it comes down, will you allow them to vote for this question on the ballot, just like they would vote for you to be elected? So, but just to make sure, and then one last thing, just so you understand, and the honorable clerk can verify this, is it can be changed back. Well,
Not to council manager. If we change, we can never go back to council manager.
Correct, she's right. She's absolutely right. But that we could go to a different form that is prescribed in the code. Thanks.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually, little pieces of all the comments that have been said, I value. But I will remain unchanged as my previous vote on this months ago, not a year ago, months ago. We just talked about this year. I don't know why we're spending time talking about this again. We just did this January, February. My position is pretty simple. West Jordan voted on this issue before. They voted it down. Why are we spending taxpayer time, money, resources on this issue when it's already been voted down? It's pretty simple. And more than anything is that argument that you just asked and actually tried to counter is the fact that once we make this change, we cannot come back to this form of government. I'm not prepared tonight because I didn't expect you to go right back to the exact same motion that was made. I just figured it was going to be a discussion. The national, I can't remember the organization name now. Basically, it's a civil liberty organization that was founded to look for those entities, that form of government that provides the most civil liberties for their citizens. And they applaud the council manager form of government as the form of government that provides the most civil liberties to its citizenry, period. I support this form of government. It's very effective. It has everything to do with the players who sit in the seats and whether it's effective or not. So I will be voting against this motion.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. One last quick, concise follow-up, because it was insinuated that by not putting this on the ballot, we're not allowing the voters to decide. Similar to what Councilmember Nichols said, I would say the voters did decide when this form of government was originally instituted for the city of West Jordan. And I feel like it's a done issue. We don't typically go back and say, did you change your mind? And continue to put things back out there again. That said, I would be in favor, like I mentioned earlier, of seeing if there is in the city proactively going out to ask if there is interest in making a change. But at the same time, I would also note that if there is significant interest, there's also the process by which citizens can place an initiative on the ballot to have something like this accomplished. And like I mentioned earlier, I just haven't heard that much outcry for a change. So I would support educational efforts and efforts by the city to see if there's interest there, but not just jumping straight to placing it on this next ballot. Thank you.
One final follow-up, Councilmember Haga.
I appreciate it, Mayor, very much. I'm going to ask if you know what year it went on the ballot.
Off the top of my head, no.
I didn't do that.
Do you know what year it went on the ballot? the form of government changed?
I have that in my notes from when we had the conversation, I think back in April, but I don't have those back with me.
1988, it went on the ballot. And we were a small town. I believe probably the residents wanted there. But we're one of the biggest cities. We need leadership. I want, in my life, while I'm still living here, a mayor that I elect and council that I elect, destined and divided. So a mayor can go out there and be the CEO of the city and not live under the umbrella of a person that has no vision of this city. And the council will be stronger, not weaker. And like again, it's the question really, if you're up for election and there's 3 of you are, how can you believe that their vote is important and not their vote for the form of government? You might ask yourself that, because it will be an issue this year. Thanks, Mayor.
I just have one comment. I want to reiterate that it would not affect my term as mayor at all. It would not take in effect. And of course, I'm not afraid to allow the citizens to vote on this issue and decide what they want. That's why I'm supporting it. It has no factor on this term of mine. I don't support it because it affects me in this term at all. Let's vote.
Clarify?
There wasn't a motion.
The mayor seconded it.
Oh.
Yeah. Councilmember Rice?
No.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
No.
Councilmember Hanson?
No.
Councilmember Hagan?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
Vote fails 2-4.
Item 8F, discussion and possible action of West Jordan City Employee Hostile Work Environment Policy.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just going to read this, and this is how I feel. There have been multiple allegations of harassment resulting in multiple employees' turnover in our city, including a senior planner. Senior planner 2 is what I think that position was. Deputy attorney, executive council assistant, city attorney, among others. The city council has a duty and responsibility to stop all issues of alleged harassment, allegations, and mitigate further.
Just a point of order and clarification, if you wouldn't mind, Councilmember Haggett. Your statement implied that these people left due to harassment. Could you please clarify?
No, I'm just saying there's been multiple turnover in our city.
Due to harassment or not due to harassment?
There's been multiple allegations of harassment and resulting in multiple employee turnovers.
So you're saying, just for clarification, harassment caused the turnover?
I'm just going to read my statement, if that's okay.
Your statement's what confused me.
Well,
Your
once
statement's
I come
implying
down to the solution, you'll understand why I'm reading it. We cannot continue to ignore these issues, and we need to seek avenues outside the city of West Jordan for independent and impartial investigation into these alleged allegations. This will free up city staff to continue the great work they have to do for the city and avoid additional stress to the city staff who would investigate without fear of retaliation. All I ask is this, and I'll make the motion, that we follow the Utah Anti-Discrimination Act, Section 34A-5107, and have all these allegations which have been reported to HR investigated impartially and independent by the state. Thanks.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. While I full-heartedly agree that issues of discrimination and harassment absolutely require investigation, I'm going to have to disagree with my council member here. His statement clearly says that there have been multiple alleged allegations resulting in employee turnovers. And these Harassment allegations include a senior planner 2, deputy attorney, executive council assistant, city attorney, among others. I disagree with that in the strongest words. That is not what's happening.
Councilmember O'Connor.
I would reiterate and emphasize what Councilmember Nichols has said. To my knowledge, any claims of any allegations of harassment, to my knowledge, have been properly investigated per our employee handbook. I very, very much take issue with the statement in here that says we cannot continue to ignore these issues, implying that they have been ignored. We have taken immediate steps to investigate and remedy anything that's been brought to our attention. If there are things you've made mention that you know, earlier in this meeting you said that you know of different things that have been happening that are improper. If those are known, they should be immediately reported. There's nothing that I have been made aware of that has fallen outside of the guideline, not even guideline, outside of the process dictated by the employee handbook. And while I agree with the sentiment that harassment should not and cannot be tolerated by the city, I wholeheartedly agree with that. But with the same level of emphasis, I disagree with the assertions that have been put forward here and the insinuations that some of these folks have left because of harassment. I have spoken with some of these folks who have left, and never in their conversation did they have any hint of harassment in there. So I'll leave my comments at that for now.
I want to make it clear that I'm making no statement whatsoever because I think that it is in legal's hands, and I would only be handled in, all these issues would be handled in closed session. Right.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to also make it very clear to the public that's here that we have an employee policy manual that identifies harassment. It identifies how it's to be addressed. I want to make it very clear that each one of you, I believe even Melanie's identified it in that harassment policy, as well as our attorney, myself, each one of the directors, that any employee who feels that they are being harassed can go safely to someone outside of their immediate supervisor and report those claims of harassment. I also want to make it very clear that we have a legal responsibility that if we are aware of anyone harassing under the definition that's in our code, that we're legally responsible to report that and to deal with it. And so I want it very well known that I also support this policy. I believe what Councilmember Hague is referring to is there's also state organizations as well as federal organizations that can also deal with harassment. But we have a responsibility to start within our own house and to start within the codes that you have adopted and policies. And so I take those very seriously, and I want to affirm Councilmember Hague's comment that we cannot allow any form of harassment to go on within our organization. The other thing I think we need to be careful of is that we definitely understand what harassment constitutes, what the definition of it under federal law is, and that we're using those terms appropriately. So as you've always known, I'm willing to continue working with you as a council or the public if there's any issues that we need to address. And I just want to make that a public statement. Thank you.
Final comment. Councilmember Hague.
Thanks, Mayor. This is state law that I'm quoting. I've asked our attorneys to interpret the law, and they came back and told me that we're doing it properly. However, the state law itself states that it overrides any municipal employee handbook, any municipal anti-discrimination, that the supreme, sometimes we call the supreme law, is state law. And all I'm asking this council is contact the state, have them investigate those things that have been reported to HR, and have an independent, impartial investigation. And I'm not the judge or jury, but I am one that believes in duty, and I raised my hand out here and I said that I uphold the law, and I believe that we follow this law. It's state law. Thanks.
Thank you. As a final remark, I would request before we adjourn that we move back to the closed session and finish the issues that were left talked about. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Before the motion to do so, I actually have 2 remarks that I'd like to make on the record. Number one, regarding the gentleman with the restaurant Azteca de Oro, who was here and came to discuss the concern that he had regarding the restaurant, I would like to see if there is agreement among council to revisit that 15% limitation within code. And if so, would there also be consent from council to direct staff to refrain from enforcing that portion of our code for 45 days or until the point we can have a vote on potential changes to that portion of our code? Did that come out making sense?
It did. Bryce?
Well, we have our attorney here also. I've been speaking to the media, and as I had to slip out, and I apologize for having to try to do dual roles. First thing in the morning, we're going to work with our code enforcement manager and Darian, and we're going to look at what provisions we have. I know that we have situations where we can stay certain actions or fines or things like that while we're investigating or while we're working on certain things. So I've publicly made a commitment on camera that we will use the law to work within the bounds that we can, and if that allows us to give extensions or things like that, I will affirm that we will do that to the best of our ability so that we aren't causing conflict. But Darian would have to confirm. I don't think we can just from the dais say, hey, let's right now without any actions or anything make any stays or anything like that. But I will assure you we will do everything.
We did that before when we were discussing the possibility of ratifying a beekeeping ordinance. We said that we directed staff not to enforce that part of our code regarding beekeeping until such a time that the council, because there was interest in council among possible changes to that piece of the ordinance. So that's why I'm saying here, either a limit of 45 days or till the point where we discuss it, if there's interest in discussing it. If there's no interest, then obviously it's a moot point.
This particular ordinance that's in question is the sign ordinance, and it's a limitation basically on all signs that requires the sign not to cover more than a certain percentage of a wall on a building. I think the problem that the city would have with not enforcing it is that murals aren't currently a separately covered item. So if there was a stay on enforcement of the ordinance, it would affect all signs, basically.
All signs that cover more than 15% of a...
Well, it would, so anyone who came in who was covering more than 15%, it wouldn't be enforceable against them either. I mean, the ordinance is used more frequently. It's not just only used for this building. I mean, the sign ordinance is used more frequently. Yeah.
And I'm not saying suggesting we should suspend enforcement of the entire sign ordinance. I'm just saying suspend enforcement of the portion of the sign ordinance that says you cannot have more than 15% of a wall or building.
And all I was saying is that there might be other buildings that put up signs in that interim period while you weren't enforcing it.
For 45 days, I'd be okay with that.
I believe that we're not punitive. Our code enforcement isn't punitive, and we've committed on the air that we're going to relook at this. I see this as being we have a sign ordinance, but I see this being more of a decoration of a building in some cases. I'm not an expert on this. I'd like to have the experts review it.
All right. So let me back up and ask the question a little differently, because a couple seem to have been speaking with the press, but we haven't had a chance to converse as a council. My goal is to make sure that we don't do anything that would harm this business. I kind of like seeing the mural there. It's a little different. It pops it out a little bit. I think it helps drive business to our city. So I'd like to, rather than see them forced to take it down in the next couple of days, stall for a little bit, and then as a council discuss what permanent solution there might be. Is that the direction that?
I think that we need to direct staff to bring this back as quick as possible, to delineate between sign and decoration of the building, some other aspects that the professionals would do, but I couldn't support just blanketing one particular business or one particular incident, because I don't believe that's fair, right?
And I'll just say, I realize the sensitivity of this, and so we will use the administrative avenues that we have within the code to work through this as sensitively as we can without causing more uproar. And so we can get you more information once we have it available of what the code allows us to do, but we will be sensitive to this.
And then my other question, my other remark is also more of a question as well. A number of citizens have commented about the tension that you often, or they say that as you come into the council meeting, you can feel the tension that exists among council. I'd like to see if there's something that we can do to make it as amicable of an environment as possible. And I would like to see if there would be support to have a moderator or mediator come and review what different options might be available to us to make this meeting and the interactions among council more comfortable, more approachable for the residents, and easier for us to work together to share our opinions. And I propose that we start by having somebody do an evaluation and give us a couple options over the next 3 weeks, have them come back to council within 2 weeks or so, and I would propose using funding from the council contingency to pay for that. Would there be support for that idea?
I support it.
Okay. If that's okay, then I would direct, I would suggest that we direct, I don't want to necessarily put this on staff, but the outside legal counsel, I've had some conversations with them, specifically Tracy Cowdell, to work to bring us somebody and start that process immediately. Personally, my interactions one-on-one with everybody, for the most part, have been fantastic, and I wish the residents could feel that as well, so I very much appreciate the support. And with that, I'll quit rambling. Thank you.
Councilmember Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is short. For the first time since I've taken office, I will not be able to do the Night Out Against Crime due to the fact that there is a family function scheduled for that night. I enjoy it. It's a great opportunity to meet your neighbors and meet the people in the city. And I would advise everybody that could, let the council do it, but I will not be able to do it this year. So, thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, earlier in the meeting, we had a conversation about reclassification. It was in the discussion regarding minutes. I didn't have time to look this up, but I just wanted to make a statement now with reference to that. The way I view it, reclassification in my mind is a budgetary matter. So it's saying this department is going to pay for this position. That department is going to pay for this position. It's purely budgetary. It has nothing to do with duties and responsibilities. And even further, this is what I wanted to look up. It took me a little time to find it. Was per state code, the city manager's responsibilities specifically are to organize and direct the management of the executive affairs of the municipality. Also create any other offices as may be deemed necessary. Prescribe the powers and duties of all other officers. And then referring to our municipal code, if I could quickly find this, direct any department to perform work for any other department. And so I just wanted to make it clear on the record that that's my understanding. I didn't see any misconstruing of what happened in that. Anyway, that was my statement, and I make a motion that we terminate the open session and we move to closed session.
Have a motion by Councilmember Nichols. A second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
I would propose a 5-minute break before reconvening.
Will you add that?
Yeah.
Second is fine.
We'll adjourn from there.
And we'll adjourn from there. All in favor? It has to be roll call. Okay, roll call vote.
Sorry. Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson? Bill passes 6 in favor.
We will move to closed session.